Chapter 1. Lights and Linger. Velma arrived late at a downtown art opening. She wore black satin, heels that clicked on hardwood, and nerves that hummed beneath her skin. Bob was there, leaning against an abstract installation, eyes on her like he'd been searching all night. They spoke about art, shadows, and desire. She laughed, soft and surprised. He leaned forward and lightly traced the back of her hand. "Close your eyes," he whispered. She obeyed. A blindfold appeared, velvet, comforting. She felt his finger trail up her arm, ghost-light, unhurried. Her breath caught with the simple intimacy of not knowing what's next. And Manhattan, the city of isolating lights, seemed to shrink around them. Chapter 2. Ropes and Reckoning. They met again the next night at Bob's studio. Window drips of rain, canvas splashes, rope coiled like secrets. "Only if you trust me," he said as he wound soft rope around her thighs, testing tension, breath. "No safe word," she teased, pulse quick. He held a padded paddle. Silence fell. "Look," he said. "When I say red, we stop. But only then." She nodded. Submission. Adrenaline. His touch moved from rope to lips. Warm, worshipful, and every knot, every pause, tied them deeper. They moved together with careful trust, forging intimacy through sensation.
Chapter 3. Okoler Arakish.
One evening, Bob appeared wearing a loose sweater. He presented a collar, sleek leather with a silver D-ring.
"For our next step," he said.
Velma's heart thundered. Fear mingled with want. She stepped forward and tilted her head. He buckled the collar gently, hands steady. "May I?" "Yes." His lips pressed to her throat, slow, affirming. The collar meant something sacred. They had crossed into a covenant. That night, entangled, she traced his face. He traced hers. No words, only shared breath and stillness. Chapter 4. Public Edge. Bob led her through the city to a discreet rooftop party, art patrons unaware, lights paling around their world. Velma wore her collar beneath a silk tee. Bob led her by a keyring hidden in his pocket. Moments of brushing hands, desperate kisses behind bushes, her pulse pounding, on the edge of exposure. That risk ignited something. They moved to the rooftop terrace, lips and tongues and clothes coming undone in an erotic spark against the skyline. The city watched, but so did they, and nothing else mattered. Chapter 5. Control and Surrender. They returned to the studio. Bob blindfolded her again, but tonight, he put her in bondage across his canvas table. Velma surrendered, spine arched, breath shallow, eyes closed. He wrote her name in paint on his canvas, then on her body, down her rib, against her thigh. Her moans filled the loft. His strokes became art, and he became sculptor of her surrender. When he freed her, she collapsed into his arms. He whispered, "Beautiful." She whispered back, "Owned." Chapter 6. The Bond of Collars. Weeks later, Manhattan winter chilled around them. Bob woke Velma early. Pulling her from sleep, he offered a matching collar, hers to his.
"No toys, no rope."
"Just us," he whispered. She nodded, tears bright. He buckled it. They stood before a full-length mirror, collared and collared, reflections entwined. Bob lifted her, kissed her mouth. She wrapped her legs around him. They moved slowly, knowingly, not for adrenaline, but for depth. Velma looked at him, unmasked now. "I'm yours," she whispered. He answered on her lips. "And I'm yours." They remained entwined as Manhattan lights twinkled, a quiet salute to the intimacy of consent, trust, and love. Chapter 7. Jealousy Wears Red. It began with a look, Bob smiling at another woman at a gallery. Velma felt her stomach tighten. Later, in bed, she asked, "Did you want her?" Bob didn't lie. "I wanted the idea." not her. Velma pulled out a red silk blindfold and said, "Show me how you see me. Remind me."
He did.
With his mouth, his fingers, and a whispered litany of every part of her he craved. By the time she came, blinded and gasping, her doubts had burned away. Chapter 8. The Velvet Cage. Velma surprised him next. She prepared the room with silk ties and a padded bench.
"You always lead," she said.
"Now surrender." She bound him, gentle but firm, and explored him inch by inch. Her tongue, her teeth, her breath became her tools. Bob was unprepared for how arousing it was to be powerless under her gaze. "You're mine too," she whispered, licking his lips as he moaned under her rhythm. That night, they collapsed in each other's arms, equal, seen, stripped bare of ego. Chapter 9. The Safe House. Velma had an idea. A weekend away, they rented a minimalist loft on the edge of Brooklyn, a quiet retreat with candles, low lighting, and no distractions. There, they practiced quiet bondage. No impact, no pain, just presence. Bob tied her with silk rope in a sherbari chest harness, then cradled her on the couch as music played softly. She cried, not from pain, but from release. He whispered, "I've got you." And he did. Chapter 10. Heat and Honey. The summer heat hit Manhattan hard. Their bodies slicked with sweat. Bob froze a honey stick, used it to trace along Velma's curves. Sweetness melted across her collarbone. She giggled, then moaned. He tasted her skin with hunger. She rode him slowly, holding his face. It wasn't fast or rough. It was raw. They collapsed in a sticky, glowing tangle, exhausted and smiling, high on lust and the city's humid rhythm. Chapter 11. The Black Box. Bob gave her a box. Black velvet. Heavy. Inside, a new collar. Dark red leather, engraved with the word, always. "I want us to mark this chapter," he said. "Not as dom and sub. As partners." She fastened it around her own neck. "Then let's write the rest together." He kissed her, hard, slow. Outside, the city buzzed. But inside their loft, time stopped. Only the rhythm of heartbeats and the soft jingle of a collar filled the air. Chapter 12. Leather and Letters. Velma began writing letters she never sent. In them, she explored her darkest cravings, being restrained in public, used by Bob in anonymous spaces, even shared fantasies. She finally handed him one, sealed in black wax. He read it in silence, then looked up, his eyes dark. "I want all of this, but only if you write the rules with me." She nodded. The game would grow, but trust would always come first. Chapter 13. The Shadow Club. Bob took her to a secret Manhattan members-only fetish club.
No phones, no judgment.
Masked, collared, she walked beside him into candlelight. That night, she was bound to a wooden cross. Bob whispered instructions to a masked dom who used a feather flogger on her. She moaned with shame and pleasure. When Bob kissed her afterward, her tears wet his lips. "You're safe," he said. "Always." Chapter 14. Her turn to lead. Velma wanted control again. This time, a role reversal scene. Bob, bound and gagged, watched her slowly remove her heels, her stockings, her blouse. Just for him. She teased him, then rode him until he begged through the gag. When she finally released him, they collapsed laughing. "Submissive Bob is dangerous," she joked. He kissed her collarbone. "Only for you." Chapter 15. The Distance. Bob got a short-term residency in Berlin. For weeks. Velma agreed, but we don't break the bond. They sent each other erotic voice notes. Velma mailed him used lingerie with handwritten fantasies. He returned with a new leather flogger, custom made for her skin. Their reunion night was fierce, quiet, sacred. Chapter 16. The Storm. They fought
hard.
Velma accused him of drifting. Bob accused her of needing too much. She left, slept at a friend's. 2 days of silence. Then a knock.
Bob,
Holding her collar. I didn't choose this life to give up on you, he said.
she cried.
Let him in. And they began again, slow, intentional, raw. Chapter 17. Ritual Fire. They created a new tradition, the fire ritual. Once a month, they wrote fears on paper, burned them, then acted out a fantasy rooted in trust. Tonight, Velma was naked, blindfolded, hands tied above her head. Bob circled her with a candle's flame, close enough to feel heat, never burn. Later, she whispered, you burned away my doubt. He kissed her forehead. You made me brave enough to hold it. Chapter 18. Exhibition. They agreed to a fantasy Velma had dreamed of, being watched. At the club, Bob tied her to a St. Andrew's cross. 3 masked couples sat watching. Bob touched her slowly, carefully. Velma moaned and shook, the mix of shame and release almost too much. When she came, she sobbed, held in Bob's arms. Never again, she whispered. Unless you ask for it, he smiled. Chapter 19. The Ceremony of Ink. Velma got a tattoo, a tiny collar with a heart, hidden behind her left ear. I wanted a mark that's always mine, even when I'm not wearing leather. Bob traced it with his tongue, then took her, slowly, her head pressed to the pillow, his voice low in her ear. Mine, he whispered with every thrust. Hers, she whispered back. Chapter 20. Velvet Goodbye. Velma's mother fell ill. She had to return to Seattle for weeks. Bob packed her things. You take the collar, but wear it only if you need to feel me close. They kissed like old souls. While apart, they wrote again, this time letters full of memory, hope, pain, and longing. When she returned, he blindfolded her and said, start again? She nodded. Always. Chapter 21. The Bond Beyond. A year passed. Their rituals matured. The club was still part of their world, but quieter now, less about shock, more about connection. One night on the Brooklyn Bridge, Bob dropped to one knee, not with a ring, but with a new collar. Gold. Velma stared, tears spilling. Will you wear this every day you choose me? She didn't speak, just turn around. He fastened it. Manhattan buzzed behind them, but all she heard was breath. All she felt was love,